Well, hey, welcome to episode 18 of the Vetted Podcast. I'm Steve Hermann.
I'm Kale Flaspohler.
I'm Lindo Zwane.
Look at that. Ready for a good one today. We've been talking about, sit up straight,
Sorry.
good pronunciation, all that kind of stuff, right? Continuing to get better every day.
Yep.
That's what we want to do. And today we're going to talk about a small topic that's not small. Hiring and retaining staff. Huge thing out there in the veterinary space. Everybody is asking about how to hire. Lots of hiring services. We're not here today to talk about hiring services. We want to talk about the best practices for your practice to hire. Because at the end of the day, hiring services don't matter. What your practice does, that's what matters first, most importantly. And you better have good practices if you're going to attract people and retain people. So looking forward to getting into that today. Also, let's talk about a little news, what's going on. So, Hurricane Helene. Our hearts go out to everyone affected by that, and to the Asheville community especially. It's been just, I don't think we even comprehend what's happened yet. I don't know if the news knows how to report what's happened yet. We do have friends on the ground out there that are helping, and so we spent some time, last week talking about that, how we can help and do things. So we're doing our best to see how we can help provide resources out to the Asheville area. But the Vetted Podcast, talking about the veterinary spot of things and animals and welfare from large animals, and I heard on large animals more so than like the veterinary care, they just need food.
Mm-hmm.
They need supplies obviously for the animals. Animals seem to be pretty good there. On small animals though, on our dogs and cats and things of that nature. Interesting, just a little Google research and had this article come up here. It says veterinarians urge pet owners to prepare for emergencies. It says following Hurricane Helene. And so meaning, I haven't thought about that. You got your own like go bag or whatever that is. Say if we have an emergency, we're going to do X, Y, and Z for the humans around here. But we don't think about our furry friends. So I liked this here, and it's got, what I like about it, it's straightforward. Breaking down into disasters, like we said, strike with a little warning. So creating a pet emergency kit is essential. That's straightforward, right?
Well, it especially comes in handy when your pet's on prescription meds and things that you just can't get all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the, having a couple weeks. 2 week supply they recommend on that. And, of course, keeping the pet anxiety down says, bringing a favorite toy or blanket in the emergency kit. Other thing, too, is interesting is that they talk about, of course, if you're an emergency, your pet might get lost. Or you might have to run and you're like, I don't know what to do with my animal, and the animal's behind or can't go. Only half of pets are chipped, it says, or even current with their collar. So their collar doesn't have a current identification on it, and then the microchip, they're not microchipped, and that is the best way to get your pet back at the end of the day.
100%.
That microchip's not coming out. I don't know a veterinarian that doesn't have the ability to do that. Usually costs around $100 to do.
It's not that expensive if you prioritize it.
It's not. And you think about $100, you've got it chipped. The local shelters have readers. A lot of veterinarians have readers. It's a way to get your animal back because the collar's going to pop off, right? Well, heck, we have, seen the shelter animals that you're like, that's someone's animal. They just never found it. And it could have, who knows, a loss on vacation or something. And it makes a new home. You're like, they're trained or everything, but they don't have a chip. They don't have a chip. So at least they have a new home where they're happy. But you imagine that? Just for $100, you could have had your pet back to you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting. We don't think about that here at all.
No.
And we do have tornadoes occasionally. Mm-hmm. We have storms.
We don't think about
floods.
The emergencies, right? Of that nature, hurricane.
Yeah, but we don't think, and I'm sure folks in North Carolina didn't think that this was going to happen either. So it's being prepared even when you think you maybe shouldn't be or don't need to be.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. And what's interesting is that, the backup plan for unexpected emergencies. So looking at that, where could you have friends, family to be able to help out? Mm-hmm. To be able, are you don't know, maybe your friends or family are allergic to a dog or a cat. You may not know. But we need to look into this, though. This is not an ad for Hills, but they have a disaster relief network, and we'll put that up on the website. That's important. You have to learn from these events, these devastating, tragic events. Who would have, Kale, what you said, fortunately here in Columbia, Missouri, in Missouri for the most part, we've had tornadoes. We've had, like, Joplin was the last horrible tornado, what's that, decade plus ago, where it devastated that town. They're up and going, doing better than ever, but you can't prepare for that.
No, you don't prepare for that.
You don't
But
expect it.
like what you said, and I didn't even think about that, having your dog chipped is the best way to get it back.
It is.
And
It is.
they're resilient.
Yeah.
Animals in general are.
Yeah.
And so, if I can't even imagine what that looks like right now out there with
Right.
pets trying to find your pet back.
Yes.
I have a black lab. Like if someone's out there, I have a black lab. How many black labs are in, if your dog is not chipped,
Yeah,
that's the best thing that you can do. I advocate anyone to chip all their animals,
absolutely.
even if they're not even an outside animal.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah. No, you need to do that. Especially if they're not an outside animal, because when they go outside, they're lost potentially, right? Because they're not used to knowing how to get home. I mean, I left the gate open this morning. Luckily, Rudy just takes a run around the house and comes back to the door like,
Hey, I'm supposed to be back in.
yeah, but I was taking trash out today and left it open. So, but he's chipped. Most people in the neighborhood do know him, so that's good. But yeah, it's a big deal to do. You talk about resiliency. We need to Google the article after this podcast. A cat was lost, like in Yellowstone. Did you hear about this? And traveled, and they lived 9 states away, and the cat came back home.
What?
Yeah, we need to Google this.
Yeah, we need to find that.
Yeah, Lindo, while we're doing this, Google that. See if you can find that article and get that. Lindo found the article about a pet cat got lost in Yellowstone. Somehow it wandered nearly 1,000 miles back home.
Yeah, so evidently it made it from Yellowstone to about 100 miles or 200 miles from where it actually lived. So over 1,000 miles it walked somehow. That's the assumption of this article.
Yeah.
And then someone scanned it, and it had to happen to be microchipped and made it back to the owner 61 days after it was lost.
Yeah, it's amazing. And hey, they said it in here. We hope everyone will see the benefits to microchipping their pets. All right, that's what we wanted to say. Lindo, thanks for finding the article. Hey, well, again, Hurricane Helene. The best thing people can do, they don't drive out there. Without a plan, number one. The best thing to do is support the Red Cross or World Kitchen, things of that nature. They're supplying food and that they know what they're doing. And also, the other thing too is a lot of misinformation out there right now that's going on that people got to quit. Like, why are we fighting over who's doing what, not doing a good job? We should just say, how can we help? That's what I get back to as a people. Say, how can we help? Don't go online and just promote something that is hurtful. Go out there and say, how can we help? And do that thing. So our hearts go out to those. There's going to be a lot more coming out on that because I think there's a lot we don't know. People that are lost, not found. So our prayers go out to the people affected by Hurricane Helene. All right, and some other news here, and I hate to say lighter or positive after talking about a hurricane, but it is positive news. And this comes out of UC Davis. They had a historic campaign raising $2.25 billion for the university as a whole. But what caught my attention was this was from UC Davis Veterinary Medicine, is that $470 million of support has gone to the veterinary medicine school for scholarships for, they've got a picture of a new emergency room, for the pets and that kind of things. And what that leads to is that as we talk to access to animal care, cost of care, all those things, is that it's not only just the veterinarians that are already out. It's the veterinarians trying to get into school, trying to pay for their debt and all those things. So ways to support the veterinary community, not only to shelters and things of that nature, is to veterinary schools. So not only because they come out of debt with, and I was looking through it, for an average of, from $180,000 to $350,000 of student debt. And going into a field where the average starting salary is $100,000 roughly. And so the sustainability of that's pretty tough. But we need to look at ways to support the community. So I see things like this and think about let's look around at your alma mater, place you're from, whether you're a veterinarian or not. You can give money to the veterinary school because the animal-human bond is a big deal. Everyone's got pets. Everyone wants to know how they can help, and it's not just the this side over here with the veterinary space, the businesses. It's that. So I thought that was some pretty big news coming out. That was just a couple weeks ago. They released that part of it. So, over 93% of the $448,000 gifts were $100,000 or less. So, a little bit goes a long way when you put a lot of people together. So that's pretty darn cool. Any other thoughts on that?
No, I think you nailed it.
Oh, appreciate that. Hey, and I want to get to so we've got reading news articles. We talk about vetting and supporting the veterinary industry, and we're talking about like bad advice. What's out there? How do you know it's bad advice? And well, one way to know it's bad advice, and you can tell it's probably written by ChatGPT straight up, like with no edits going on. Just says make this business article for the veterinary space, and it says smart ways to handle too much business. What I chuckled about on this, number one, I think most people will see through this article, is that it's talking about COVID-19. Well, if it was 2021, okay, let's talk about it. But we're in 2024, and you and I know, what have we seen recently?
Oh, a lot of practices are slower.
Yeah.
Top line revenue may not be down, but we're not struggling to keep up. We're struggling to keep it full now.
Right.
And again, I don't think the situation is dire per se,
No.
but we're definitely not dealing with an influx of patients to the point that we can't take a breath.
Yes.
I think we have more of a concern the other way. Is it's like, hey, I'm not as busy as I was, which is okay. I don't think that's a bad thing that we actually have time in our day to be people.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it just shows that it's an outdated article because I think in the data that we're seeing,
when you say it's outdated, this is a recent article.
Yes, but the
materials
contents of it
outdated
are leading us to believe that it's outdated.
Yeah, this is from July of 2024, the end of July, just a couple months ago. And what kills me on it is that though someone might read it and go, "Wait a minute, I don't have a bunch of business," and it might exacerbate their feeling on I'm in trouble. On the back's like you said, no, actually we have some air in the calendar. So how can we rethink how to fill this up? Which our last podcast talked about best practices, things you can do to look inside. That or the one before that, the marketing part, right? The things you can do inside your practice to get back to best medicine, best practices. So yeah, I looked at that and it says, yeah, taking on this new challenge. And so, I mean, yeah, you go through it and reconsider how many days of practice is open. How to handle too much business. So are we going to
We're going to close down, make
close
it worse.
down, or open another day to be more stressed out?
Yeah. Or even further, expand. So we're just going to go through and build a new practice or do all these other things when we know we are going to have difficulties finding a veterinarian.
Yeah.
That's why we're overwhelmed and stressed because we don't have enough help.
Yeah.
And yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And it comes back to why I dislike benchmarking and comparing ourselves so much to everyone else.
Right.
It's not I would never advocate someone personally that they go compare their life to someone else's. So why would we do that with a business?
Yeah.
Like if we're comfortable, if we're happy with where we're at, that should be enough.
Yeah.
We don't need to go, compare ourselves and say, this person's doing 23%. I'm only doing 19. So I, still have work to do. It's like,
Yeah.
is that working for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, what do you need?
What do you need?
It's about you figuring out what's going on with your practice, being better for your practice, for yourself, for your team, all those things. And so, yeah, not good advice. Best way to look at not good advice is when it's written by a life insurance salesperson. Because I had it at Fetch. A prospective client came up and said, "I'm tired of these business talks trying to." At the end of the day, they sell like some advice that is in turn going to result in them promoting a life insurance product to me. And that's the worst. And whether it's good intentioned or not, it's the person may be presenting with best intentions, that person presenting it. Doesn't make it right.
Nope.
Doesn't make it right. So that's going to go right into, our talk today. And I got to find out, we're trying to do this paper thing. I don't know if you like it or not. Try and do paper instead of the iPad or computer there. I actually have the agenda right here. So we're going to talk about hiring, and I think that we've seen plenty of that. We have a service that we do for select clients, and that we've helped put a hiring package together and do those things. So we're experiencing in this. We've seen what works, what doesn't work, and there's one thing. And this goes to all of our talks. People are gonna, if they don't get this part about what we believe matters, is that it's culture first. That's for best practice. That's for marketing. That's for everything. No kidding when we say culture eats strategy for breakfast, lunch, dinner, because it does. So when people are, say, I need another veterinarian, I need a technician, I need front end staff, whatever that position that's needed in that practice, or I need a practice manager. That's a real interesting one. We're not going to get into the job necessarily the jobs description and things like that in this episode. We should do that though. But on this episode, it's to go, if you just throw an ad out there and things aren't working right inside your practice, you may find someone, right? Because that can happen. I've been fishing and go fishing at Bennett Springs, and one of the first times on the family trip, I caught a lunker, which is the 3-pounder at Bennett Springs. But
which is a trophy at Bennett Springs.
Trophy at Bennett Springs and other places, but at Bennett it is. And everyone looks at me and like, I've been fishing for 25 years and never caught one of those. It's dumb luck. Mm-hmm. I've never caught one since. That was my best fishing trip ever. It was just dumb luck. It had nothing to do with my setup or my plan or anything, which shows that I didn't have a setup, didn't have a plan, and so I have not been successful since at fishing. Which that's what culture, at the end of the day. Put an ad out there, but you got to have your culture right. Am I?
You have no choice but to have your culture right.
Yeah.
And if your culture isn't right and you hire someone in that is a good cultural fit for what you're trying to build, your negative culture will push that person out. It's happened. I've had it happen recently with clients. It's almost a guarantee at the point, because someone that is coming in that wants to be a part of a positive culture that's really trying to do things, if they get sucked into a negative culture and negative environment, they're going to understand that they're worth more.
Yeah.
Their mental health, their mental well-being, their contributions to an organization are worth more than going into an environment that they don't like.
Yeah.
Because there are good companies out there that they're good. Like, and I'm saying not that you have a bad company if you have a bad culture, but there are good companies with good cultures out there that are looking for good people.
Yeah.
And so, if your culture's not right, it will push the people that actually are pushing on for your agenda, that are trying to be a part of the team, that are trying to push the company forward. It'll make them leave.
It will. I think as the business owner, the one that really is at the bottom of the inverted, or take the top of the pyramid and invert it, right? We talk about that. The best test is to look in the mirror and ask, would I want to work here? Just honestly, would I want to work here? And not to scare anyone or make anyone more stressed out, but that's the first step in working on culture. And however you can answer that, culture always got to work on it. It's living, it's growing, it's changing, and you always have to work on it. So you got to get that right.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: if I have a person that is really, really contributing to a bad culture, but they've been there for 35 years, 40 years, 50 years, maybe not 50.
Yeah.
But they've been there a long time.
Right.
How do you respect and reward loyalty while also, protecting the culture?
Well, you know how I answer this. The question is, I do look in the mirror. Number one, I say, have I done everything possible to try to help that person, fit with the team, be successful, those things. And if I've done that, which means working with them, which means setting out expectations, which means inspecting those expectations. If that's not happening, I need to find a way to move them on to a spot where they might fit, because it could be just a fit, right? But some people blindly sit around and they're afraid to go somewhere else. Maybe they've for 30 years are like, I've wanted something else and I didn't have the courage to go somewhere else. So it's opening that line of communication, and you're going to have to move them on. There's no question about it. You have to do it tactfully, smartfully, and respectful of the person that's been there that long, because there's an image that comes along with that to the rest of the team to go, oh, crap. They've been there for 35 years. I've been here for 35 days. They just fired someone who's been here for 35 years. You could scare your whole staff. So you have to be smart about how you have to do that. But you got to do it. You got to do it. But you got to set the person up for the best success they can have. And that's that. We talk about compassion versus empathy. You need to be compassionate towards that person. Don't let it drag you down. Great question.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like that one comes across a long time. It's like, I've had this employee for a while, 20 years, 30 years, 40
They inherited
years.
the employee.
They inherited the employee in some cases.
Yeah. Because they bought the practice, and that person's been there, and
they don't fit the vision anymore, though.
Yeah.
So how do we work on getting them there? And you're right. It comes. You look in the mirror first.
Absolutely.
You look in the mirror and say, did I actually try?
Yeah.
Or did I just kind of think in my head that this person should be moving forward and they're not, and that's truly on me. So,
well, that gets into our next point, which is assessing the team's talents. Is to look at that team and say, now, what is everybody really good at? What are they excited about? And so figuring that out. If you're fostering that kind of deal, a lot of times it'll help with that 35-year person actually might move on out because they're really seeing a team that's growing, flourishing. Or either they come in and be a part of that, or they move their way out. So that's a big part of it. When we're thinking about hiring, is assessing the talent of the team, giving them the tools to succeed is a big deal. And that's what the next point. Yeah, the team to thrive. Right? Are those communications in place that say, yeah, we do look at the fit and feel. If we let someone go, people understand why you let them go. It's not a surprise. That's the answer to that 35 years. They'll be like, oh, yeah, I understand why that person. We've been working on these things. They don't fit. It sucks to see someone go. You have to figure out, their new way in life at that age or whatever that is. But it helps out. And then after you've done those things, you understand that, then you're able actually to define the need. Because sometimes, I need a new veterinarian. Do you? Explain that to me. Do you? Do you need a new veterinarian? What is the need? Not the want, because that's a want. I want a new veterinarian. But what's the need? Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's the need could be, you could hire another veterinary technician, which would ease your time spent in, the room where you could take some AI, use service like VetScribe to be able to do your notes better for you. Do those things. What can cut time out of the day? There's all kinds of things to look at before you go. Let's just hire somebody because you're talking about people here. What more on that, Kale? You got anything?
No, I want to go the AI route. That's probably not this. Episode. But I do think it's it doesn't always have to be a person.
Yeah.
It can be a thing.
Yeah.
That can ease time. You don't have to hire for everything.
Right.
Right. Let's step back and analyze the position. Are you filling a short-term need, or is this actually a long-term thing?
Right.
And it comes back to culture, because if you have the right culture, your culture will support the business for a short-term struggle, because they see that in the long term we need X, whatever that thing is. We're just trying to implement or do whatever. So your culture will help you in times of short-term issues. So we don't have to go hire and put us in a long-term problem to solve a short-term problem.
Yes, it will. And so as we look at that, we started with culture. We got assessing the team's talents. Is the team got space to thrive, defining the need. And then once those things are then you can go out and put the job description out there. And there's really a couple things. And I mean, Lindo, you can speak to this. Lindo, you've been working hard on helping practices recruit and put you on the spot, but it's pretty straightforward, right? There's a couple services that work, and at the end of the day, isn't it just working the services, having the right message out there?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, it is. The thing is that for what we do, especially, it's a niche space, but it's also the people that we're looking for to put in certain clinics. It's very hard to find them. So you have to say the right things. You don't want to sound like you're advertising a lot of things as well. So you just want to be direct and make sure that people know what you're looking for exactly, and not waste their time.
Yeah, and if you got the culture right, it's going to help with the hiring on that side. But I think to set the expectation on the hiring part is that the fact of the matter is that it could take 9 months, it could take 3 years to find that veterinarian. You have to be this is going to be a labor of love. This is going to be something that you can't get discouraged on, and a lot of it can be location dependent. If you're in a highly sought after area, probably going to have an easier time finding that person. If you're in a rural community, it could take some time. It could take some time. So, but at the end of the day, this gets back to the fishing analogy in the beginning. You gotta be fishing. You gotta have the line in the water constantly. There's fish out there. You will catch one, but you got to be on it. You got to work it. So as we talk about the hierarchy of things, really the hierarchy needs to be inverted on the hiring process, because we really people tend to just throw an ad out. I'm going to hire somebody. Go through the process to make sure you get that right so you can get that going.
The way I like to measure, I guess, a team, effectiveness of measure a culture, is it's if I took this group of people and if I handpicked this group of people, could I go do anything? Like, could I do something outside of veterinary medicine? And I know for a fact we would do it because this group of people can do it together. That's when I think for a fact that you've got a good team, is because a good group of people can accomplish anything. It's just you've chosen, we're going to accomplish veterinary medicine. We're focusing on veterinary medicine.
Yeah.
But this group of people could do anything together.
Yeah.
And that's when you've got a good culture.
Right. Absolutely. So I think that's a great point to say that it's, you can look around at other examples in the community for successful businesses, and what are they doing? What are they doing that makes a difference? Everyone's always happy there. If you walk into service industries and see what's going on, even to our friends that have Culver's in Kansas City area and growing, they have some of the happiest people, the fastest, delivery of food, and some of the best tasting Culver's food you can find anywhere. It's because they've got a good culture of love, and that's what they do. So it's cool to see and bring that outside perspective in, because like you said, a team's a team.
A team's a team.
Whether it's serving burgers or doing veterinary medicine, a team's a team. It matters. Well, you think about hiring, I thought it'd be good to throw in here about retaining staff. And let's imagine that it's probably the same, right? Culture at top. So let's move past culture, but I think, no kidding aside, what things we do need to talk about on retaining staff, we talked about it earlier, is the team has opportunity to succeed. And what that means is, can they see themselves growing? Is there opportunity or to do more, make more, and see a career in what they're doing? Because if there's not, what fun is that to be like, I'm here.
I'm maxed out.
I'm maxed out. I'm going to get to be that 30-year person here, and I haven't grown, haven't done anything, and then, I'm probably going to be let go because what else can I do? And I'm probably the most expensive person here per production because I've been here 30 years. So that's an important part. And what that comes down into, the growth, is not only the business growth, is the personal development. What are we doing as a team to understand each other, to be self-aware of what goes on, how we work, because we all approach things differently. Mm-hmm. We have the same goals, right, for best medicine in a practice, if we're talking about that side. But how we approach that and think about it is different. We still want to get there, but respecting each person's way they go about that's important. So really having that development opportunities is a big deal.
Well, from an owner's perspective, I think it's about understanding your team and understanding what success might actually look like to them. Mm-hmm. Because some people might say, hey, my situation, I don't need a lot of money, but I would like, if I'm not going to make that much money, I would like flexibility with my time, mm-hmm. because that fits my life, or whatever that is. I think we'd never ask. We just assume, or we do things like, hey, this person wants X, and we never asked. And so I think it's actually stepping back and saying, do I actually know what that person wants, mm-hmm. or am I just assuming that right now?
Yeah.
Because if people are leaving, if you have a high turnover rate, it might be because you just never asked what they wanted, and it could have totally been within your wheelhouse to provide them.
Well, that dovetails into, we got compensation and benefits. That's not all of it. What you're saying, right? It's culture. Is it a fun place to work that I enjoy getting up and going to? I will forgo money if I really like where I'm working. Flip side is, if you really like where you're working, it really is working that way, you probably don't have to forego money, mm-hmm. because it's operating really well and making money, and the money's being shared profitability-wise, right? That's just not all going to the top. Mm-hmm. That it is being shared. The growth of business matters because everyone contributes. So I think that, on the retention side, it talk about places to work. It's we've had clients in old buildings, 70s, 80s, old buildings, and they're like, I can't retain staff even though I'm paying them more than anywhere else. And I can't hire staff even though I'm offering more than anywhere else. So one of the big parts about your team, your culture, is having that updated facility, continuing to reinvest in that, not only people, but inside the equipment, the look, the feel of the practice, and maybe making the determination, I need to build a new practice. And we really are a proponent of building new practices, because a lot of these are outdated. They're not, you might spend less money on what you've got, but you're not going to get what you want or need in the end. And we have seen it multiple times when people have built new practices. that they actually get a doctor within 6 months to a year, because that doctor coming out of school is looking to new equipment, new building. They've been working at the university that, like UC Davis, they have a boatload of money. They have new equipment, new facilities. University of Missouri down here, new diagnostic lab. They've got the nicest, newest stuff. IDEX is putting the nicest, newest stuff in there, right? They want people coming out
expecting
I
IDEX.
want the nicest, newest stuff because it provides best medicine. And so constant reinvestment in the business is important for retention and for hiring. Updated facilities, big deal. You said it earlier. I want to, as we talk about culture, the other word starts with C is communication. You said it. Communication is going to build great culture. Being able to feel like I have the ability to tell my boss what I'm feeling without worry of the other C word, candor. That, you know, the cost of candor is too much. You have to be able to be in an environment to say, hey, here's what's going on, and not worry that you're going to get canned or fired or pass over for promotion. You should be able to have open, honest conversations. That's key communication. So we look at the hiring look, the retention look, and let's avoid some pitfalls here. Let's talk about pitfalls. The pitfall we said is people rush to make a decision. Get back to catching that lunker. Oh, this fishing's easy.
This isn't that hard.
Isn't that hard? Look, I got one. Well, you talked about it, was the fact that this person you hire on, man, maybe they don't fit. One of two things happen. They could drive out their existing team members, or they don't hang around very long, and they're gone. And boy, that's tough. And one of the most expensive things to do is to hire somebody, because the training that goes on, the adapting to the new culture, all those things that go along with make sure that works. So rush hiring decisions. Talked about earlier is the work-life balance. I like blend. I wrote down balance. I should have written down blend. Work-life blend. How do those things work together? I like the blend because I hope, that people are excited, Pro Partners team to be like, when they're out and about, when people say, what do you do? I'm part of the Pro Partners team. You can feel that excitement. Why the blend is because you're out in your life, and now you're talking about your work, right? And when it's your work, you should be able to talk about your life. It should go both ways. You should have smiles and working on that. So it's not this balance thing, because nothing's ever in balance. It never is. We're kind of we're doing this back and forth thing. We're doing this walk, but if we can blend that together and recognize that, that's a lot better. So don't neglect that, and don't call it work-life balance. I think that's good. I'm glad I put that on there to point that out. Work-life balance.
That's not a balance. Sometimes life is more over the center line, and sometimes work is.
Yeah, you're still going down the tracks to the destination.
Yeah.
What you're looking at. Lack of clear role and definition. We said assessing the team needs. So flipping that to say, if you don't know your team needs, if you don't have clear what the job expectations are for the role, man, people like to know what they're expected to do. There's no question about it. We've played with it around here, a little more freedom and autonomy to craft your own way. And that's nice and everything, but in what boundaries? What are your expectations? And I think we've had ourselves to go, let's relook at this thing and redefine roles and what people are really good at internally. We continually do that to get better. And so don't just hire someone and call them something. That is it's not a role, it's not a definition, that's just a title. And what the heck does that mean? What does front desk mean? You sit there, you got a phone, you got a computer. What am I expected to do?
Different hospitals, it means different things.
It does. Yeah, it does. Absolutely. Should I take the phone call while I got someone staring at me? No one told me I shouldn't. I
feel like I should, but
I feel like I should, right? That was pressure. So you got to define those things. Those expectations are huge. Getting back to the C word, communication, which is staff feedback. Ignoring that, looking that over. Staff feedback is also understanding nonverbal cues. That's feedback. When you see someone like having an off day, that is always up and going and excited, maybe you ought to cue into that. Give them the grace, give them the space. But if you know what the people know what's going on, you have the ability to ask, hey, can I help you with anything today? What can I do to make your day better? Simple questions like that go a long, long way. And make sure you have the space to do that. Here's an important one, is understanding. undervaluing staff contributions. Mm-hmm. I think that's the biggest thing, and I think that goes societal wise. We say that dock worker strike. And again, the misinformation that goes out there about these dock workers make more than this. There's automation. There's all this stuff. These are people. There's a reason people go on strike, and it's because their contributions are undervalued. Whether you agree with this or that, there's real. It's real. Mm-hmm. People don't go on strike just to go, I want, right? Yeah, I deserve it. No, they're not being heard. And you see how quick they got that solved when you looked at it. Yeah, they haven't.
4 days? 3 days?
Yeah, 3 days. And it's solved. It's a temporary, right? They got them back to work. There's still more things to solve. At least they got
got heard.
Yeah, it got heard. But why do we get to that point? I think it's a better question. Like, avoid that.
Yeah, let's never get there.
Let's not get there. And so definitely they are not feeling the feedback of the workers, mm-hmm. for sure. And that's why unions form. That's why these things happen, is because they're not communicating, and they need someone in the middle to be like, hey, listen to these people. They're important. So there's good and bad and everything, right? Good unions, bad unions, all this stuff, right? There's not one solution structurally wise, besides getting back to culture, communication, feedback. So those are really a big pitfalls on hiring and retaining. And then into the hiring side, to go back and finish on that, on all those things we just said, when you do get someone in, what is your process for interviewing? Is it just sit down and stare at each other? I got a doctor. I'm just going to hire him because he's the only doctor I've ever had apply in the past year. Do you hire that person just because of that? That's a rushed hiring decision. Mm-hmm. How are we going to walk through? I know that feels rushed with the doctors because there's not a ton of them applying, but the way you can make a faster decision by having a process mm-hmm. for that hiring. So the pitfall I think that is on that is that we put the ad out there, but we don't have a hiring process.
Yeah, or an onboarding process to a point. Like, once you've identified this person's a good person, like, did we onboard them right? Because I have a clinic comes to mind that almost never misses on hiring. Mm-hmm. Their employees are some of the most productive employees in a veterinary clinic that I have ever seen. They're just phenomenal in every way. And it has to do with the way they onboard somebody. Mm-hmm. They don't throw them to the wolves. They adjust their schedule to bring on that person. They have clear set rules about what this person's allowed to do and when they're allowed to do it. And it is night and day difference in the way that person performs. Yes. As opposed to just being like, all right, here's your appointment slot, go.
Yeah.
It's completely different. It's a completely different way of thinking, and it shows.
It does. And let's really understanding people and knowing them, being aware of how they work, think, live in the world, get energy from the world. All those things matter into what happens there, because that should be part of it. Not everyone's going to do the job the same way, but they're going to get the job done. It's a big deal. And yeah, you can't onboarding. We've got our hiring process identified, how we interview, and how we onboard. Mm-hmm. That final step is kind of, if you look at it, you think about in the practice, it's the way we talk about people checking out, paying their bill. If that's like kind of the onboarding in a way, a correlation. If you screw that last step up,
it sets a tone.
Yeah. Well, people are going to the community. Let's face it. We talk about communication. People love communicating on social media. They love going on and reviewing people. And the veterinary space is small space. Mm-hmm. The best thing you can get when you have your culture right, when you hire right, do all those things right, is people are going to talk about that is a great place to work. How can I work there? How can I be a part of that? And
anything opens up, come see me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and we see that with practices that really get that and do that. Because that not only works for client retention, works for staff retention, finding new staff, and growing your business. Because that's what, it's funny about, that's something we hit on earlier. It's like said, expand. No.
Not always.
We do want to grow. We do want to grow our business, but if we don't have those fundamental things right underneath, and it mentions, it's funny, talk about get your mission and vision statement right. Now, how do you even have a mission and vision statement right if you don't understand your culture, don't understand what's going on, what you can do, what you can achieve, which gets to that article that I told you was a great article, which Lauren sent it to me. I shared it with you, and it's on collective creativity and valuing people over ideas. And it's interesting. This is by Austin Kleon, and this is back just the end of September. And I had written down a couple of years ago about thinking about my role here at Pro Partners, and I played alto saxophone in high school. I love playing that. I enjoyed being part of the band, the jazz band, all those things. But I really enjoyed. You can imagine doing solos. That was my most exciting thing, right? Because I could control what was going on. I'm an 18-year-old kid back then, but I looked at like the role as CEO here. It's like this conductor of a band. That's what it is, right? I've got your different sections. Sometimes the section goes faster, then slow down a section. Bring up the volume here on this section, and I wrote that down a couple of years ago. But I wrote it down from the standpoint of like me just conducting you all. Like, it's my job to get you in the right spots, do this and do that, right? Boy, I was doing it the wrong way. I was. This article talks about Duke Ellington and how Duke Ellington looked at the pieces of the band and their talents and their gifts and let the band breathe and live and do their thing that's exciting and support that, right? And support that and really bring out the best of them instead of him going, you play trumpet, you play drums, you sing. It was looking at what do I got, and that's the way we'll look at here. We have a great team here at Pro Partners. That's what we're working on doing, is to continue to do that, so we can grow and build and work with more veterinarians. We can have the next staff member come on and do those things. So I want to put this article out there for everybody. I mean, what did you think of the article? Did anything ring to you?
Yeah, 100%. And I think the thing that stuck out to me the most was the graphic on the back where it shows as it grows how many relationships you have.
Oh yeah.
Which is pretty self-explanatory. We should all think about that, right? Yeah. But like, it never crossed my mind. They compared it to a family. When you have mom and dad, there's one relationship. When you have a kid, there's 3.
Yeah.
And you have 2 kids, now there's 6.
Yeah.
And so, can you imagine
all the people talking,
all the people talking about different people and doing things? Can you imagine if you had 3 kids? How many? Well, I mean, you can't imagine if you had 3 kids. How many relationships is that? I can't even do that math, but it's a lot.
It's a lot.
And so, the way that grows and does things, and the last sentence really probably might be a decent way to close it off, is the point of any real collaboration is to go somewhere neither of you could go alone.
Yeah.
And that's the whole. That's why we're here, is doing something that we couldn't do this all without each other.
No. That's perfect. It's my correlation with me. Yeah, the solo, right? I took for granted the other people in the band. It wasn't my job back then. But I understand that. That's a big deal. Collaboration's huge. You do need a conductor. There's no question about it. That conductor needs to understand what's going on in the practice, understand the culture, and so you can be successful. You can hire. You can retain. It's just understanding what's going on, and you don't have to expand. Mm-hmm. Work on what you're doing. You can be happy with what you got going on. You can be successful with the current clientele, the current team you have. Just work on it. And then sit back and think, what do I want to do next? So, great day today. I hit on what we need to talk about as we get to the end of the year here, because I think a tough thing is getting into the year is stress does form, holidays, right? Seems like people kind of maybe make some bad decisions towards the end of the year. And so try to take a look at that, be proactive before you get to the end of the year, get to the holiday times. So one of the worst things is when we have a client say, I have an issue with a employee, a staff member, a team member, whatever you call that person, and it's Christmas time, Hanukkah, whatever your religion is there or not. It's the holiday time. It's the end of the year. It's one of the worst times to try to think you have to let someone go. So get ahead of things. Be proactive. I think that's key. Collaboration. You hit it nail on the head. Did I say that right?
You hit the nail on the head. Yeah,
I did. All right, cool. Well, thanks so much. Hey, as always, check us out, thevettedpodcast.com. Post our episodes there. YouTube, Spotify, Audible, Amazon, and 14 other platforms or so that are out there. We're all over. And, hey, keeping us up on social media. We're working on growing that on Instagram, on Facebook. Reach out to us. Let us know you got questions, thoughts. Comment on our episodes. What did we miss, hit on? We talk about feedback. We like feedback. Either way, it helps us grow. Helps us get better.
I'd love it disagreeing. I'd love a disagreement. Tell us we were wrong.
Yeah.
I'd love to have a discussion about that.
Yeah. Because, hey, we're giving our perspective. What we've seen work, but doesn't mean it's the end all be all.
Amen.
Thanks so much.
Peace and blessings.
See you guys. Till next time. This is the Better Podcast.